Hi, and welcome to the Leap Forward podcast. This is the show where we explore the future of learning, leadership, and work with the people pushing boundaries and building what comes next. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Hugh Viney, the founder and CEO of Minerva Virtual Academy. Minerva is an award-winning, and I think the UK's fastest growing, if not the world's fastest growing school, that's really challenging assumptions about what school can and should look like. And Hugh's become quite rapidly one of those visible voices in sort of modern education, advocating for flexible, student-centered learning that works for families around the world, and of course, most importantly, for young people with ambitions that don't necessarily fit neatly into that sort of traditional school model. Hugh, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome to Leap Forward.
Justin, thank you. What an intro. I love that. I might borrow that. I think probably not the world, though we can't say that, but UK for sure. UK for sure. Fastest growing school, yeah.
Very impressive, very impressive. So for those listeners that perhaps are new to Minerva, what is it and what makes it so sort of fundamentally different?
Yeah, MVA, Minerva Virtual Academy, or like I said, MVA to students and teachers and friends of the school. It's a secondary school, like you'd imagine, starting in year 7 to year 13 for international listeners. So that's ages 11 to 18. We offer the British or English national curriculum, which means they take GCSE exams for their qualifications at 16, which many UK listeners or international listeners will be familiar with, and A-levels at 18. And we do all the cool things, or good things, wonderful things that a very good school should do, whether that's amazing pastoral care, incredible enrichment programs. We've got over 40 after-school clubs, school trips. We do more than most schools because of the nature of our school, which I'm getting to. We do about 6 a term in the UK and about half that at the moment in the UAE, so it's 3 a term, including family get-togethers and meetups. We have assembly on Monday morning, year group assembly on Wednesdays. We do all the subjects most schools study, except the difference is the majority of our learning is online. And on top of that, it's not just online mirroring a school, so 8 hours a day of lessons. No, we take a massively different approach to the learning model too. In fact, being online is not our most radical thing. Our most radical thing really is the model our school, the pillars our school is built on. So firstly, the academic model. Students learn 60% of their learning content asynchronously on their own on a virtual platform with video, audio, text. And then they obviously also have, and it's really important, and this is the second pillar of the school, fixed lessons, live lessons with real teachers. You just don't have as many because about 40% of the number you get at a traditional school. What that means in the academic model is you get flexibility and freedom. Kids can go at their own pace, in their own time, which is an incredibly liberating thing when you're learning and suits, not all kids for sure, like self-study doesn't suit lots of kids, but for many it's perfect, if not better. But you back that up in the model, and this again is proof that being online isn't the most radical thing. We do something that every school should do, is that every child gets a mentor once a week, one-on-one. Every child gets a mentor one-on-one once a week. And to think now, logistically, that means 1,400 mentor sessions a week, which is mad. And finally, the fourth pillar is our community. And that is what I referred to already, the school trips, the family meetups, the get-togethers, which are in person and crucial. And an amazing thing happened, Justin, when we grew past 500 students, we're at 1,400 now, full-time. Parents around the UK started connecting with each other from MVA. So you've got these pockets meeting up in Scotland and in the southeast, the southwest, and we're having the same in the UAE now, in the United Arab Emirates, across Dubai and Abu Dhabi. This is the secret magic sauce of MVA. Parents meeting up of their own accord, kids meeting up of their own accord to study together, hang out together, and socialize together. So yeah, that's the picture of MVA in a nutshell.
You're building this kind of blended, hybrid kind of community, online, offline. Let's go back a minute. Give me the origin story. How did kind of MVA kind of come about?
Yeah, well, I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years, and MVA is only 5 years old. In fact, it's our 5th birthday. Like today, I think. It's our 5th birthday today. I'm not
Congratulations.
joking. I think it is. Sorry.
Bring the cake in, guys.
Yeah, cue the cake. Yeah, we launched 5 years ago. We'd run a 4-week trial for free. from November to sort of late November to December to test the water, because I was basically inventing a new type of school and I wanted to see if anyone liked it. Okay. But yeah, we launched in January 2021. Why? Where did it come about? Well, the previous summer, sadly, we'll all remember, is that sort of COVID 2020. I'd been running a education business for 6 years by that point. It was a tutoring business. We supplied tutors to families who needed additional support for their children, maths, English, GCSEs, A-levels, whatever it might be. And we had a good, healthy business, London-based, small but premium, nice, profitable business. It ticked over. We did a great job. But the interesting thing was happening. We'd noticed a shift from 2015 up to 2020. We were noticing parents coming to our tutoring business, not for a tutor, or not to get one-on-one after-school tuition. They wanted homeschooling. Parents were increasingly coming to us pre-COVID for homeschooling services. And these were not the historic philosophically home eds who are philosophically against schooling. We like those guys. They're cool. They're different though. We're not, and we work with loads of families in the home ed world now. This is not traditional home edders. These are people who've gone to traditional school but been forced into homeschooling because the school did not suit their child or their family need. 4 main categories, although there's a few others. Children with special educational needs or neurodivergent students who do not suit the mainstream, they were coming to us for homeschooling. Children with SEMH, so mental health needs, particularly anxiety, they weren't getting on well in school and they were coming to us for homeschooling. Elite athletes and performers, so fantastic high-level tennis players and golfers, age 11 to 18, were coming to us for homeschooling because they wanted to fit school around their schedule. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And finally, what we call the lifestyle category, where it's not a child's need, it's a family need. Family wants flexibility. Family wants freedom. A family doesn't want to be sitting in traffic on the school run anymore. Family wants to be able to get up and go and take the school with them. We've been serving them since 2015 as well. So come to 2020, we've really experienced 5 years of serving this category of family with homeschooling. But the biggest problem was it was quite expensive. If you're going to homeschool with tutors, it costs a lot of money. So I thought, hang on a minute, especially with the explosion in demand for homeschooling come COVID, because what happened across the world was many parents saw their child happy for the first time, not because they were missing school, happy because they were engaging with school, because learning from home or learning online was better for them. So families came to us and said, hey, we want to homeschool now in 2020. I said, hey, we do these homeschooling programs. Oh, that's really expensive with tutors. Okay. And these are hundreds and hundreds of requests we're getting. So I thought, hang on a minute, let's come up with an affordable homeschooling solution that has a true sense of community, because that's often missing in homeschooling services. And I thought, well, what does that look like? And it was like, oh, it's a cool online school that does things differently. It's going to have a mixture of asynchronous and synchronous learning. Every child's going to get a mentor once a week, and we're going to make sure community is at the heart of everything we do. It was literally that model I came up with in the summer of 2020 because I thought it sounded good, and I thought it would be great for these kinds of kids, the kinds of kids we know. We've known these kids for years. And it's worked. I mean, how come we've grown so fast to the size we've grown? I think 2 main reasons. One is there's obviously a need and demand for our type of schooling that we offer, a different type of schooling. The other is, I think, because our model's good as well. Yeah, I like to think. I hope so. I mean, maybe it is. So that was the origins of it. Essentially, we wanted to create a school for these families that we understand. So, whereas a lot of online providers are schools that went online, right? Whereas we came at it from a homeschooling expertise background. And I think that's made the difference. It's been really interesting. But ultimately, Justin, this is crucial. It all comes from my desperate belief that every child should enjoy school. Every child should be happy in school. And so many kids are not happy in school. So we created a school for those kids that were not happy in school. In some sad cases, school made them ill. MVA is a place for them to be happy again. And what happens when you're happy? You make more friends, your grades improve, and you have a better chance in future life. You're future-proofing yourself. And when you're happy, it starts with happiness. And that's how we built this.
I love that, Hugh. I think you're so right. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of, as a parent, ultimately kind of what you want for your kids, right? You just want them to be happy. And I love the fact that you've kind of built this, and I guess obviously, 5 years, but you've also had all of that expertise kind of that fed into previously that, and you've really thought about, the product market fit and so forth, right? And you've built this kind of around those needs. And that's what I think is, really, at the center of every great, flourishing business today. You talked about kind of, schools, the traditional schools, I guess, as we would call them. You've talked about the benefits of kind of what you're doing with MVA. What do you think kind of mainstream schooling is kind of getting wrong in today's world?
Really great question. And this is what's funny, and people find this surprising. You know how lots of entrepreneurs are like, I hate school, I hated school. It's quite a common thread, right?
Yep.
With
Yep.
you meet so many of them, right?
Sadly, yeah.
It's really sad. I'm the opposite. I love school. And I went to a traditional school and a brick and mortar school, and it suited me. This building, this really cool neoclassical building, I loved going there with amazing grounds, I loved that. I loved the fact, I love being in a classroom with lots of my peers, right? I liked the buzz of being in a classroom. And I was able to learn in that environment too. I liked having a teacher at the front of the class teaching from a whiteboard. It suited me. And I liked studying, going to school from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day. It suited me, okay? I want to make that really clear. And to be honest, that environment, that mainstream environment, is excellent for some, suits many, but for some, and I argue a significant minority, it's not good for them. It's actually doing them disservice, and they're unhappy and therefore not fulfilling their potential. So go back to those four things, what I call the happiness barriers, which were fine for me, but aren't for so many kids. The physical location itself, for some children, the building or getting to the building is a problem. It's anxiety inducing, or it's a pain just to get there, sitting in traffic and getting to the building itself. It's not conducive to their learning. For some kids, the classroom, having 20 kids around you, sometimes 30 kids around you, fine for me, I didn't mind. Some kids find that horribly distracting. Really bad. They can't concentrate because of the noise. They can't concentrate because of the smells sometimes, that sort of thing. And you know the type of kid I'm talking about, potentially neurodivergent. But not just that. We've got families that come to us, their child is not neurodivergent, their child doesn't have a learning need, and they say they love the MVA environment because in their traditional school classroom, they were embarrassed to put their hand up because they would get bullied. So it's not just the neurodiverse suffering in a classroom setting. It's like other kids who feel embarrassed to put their hand up in the air, and in an MVA environment, they don't feel that anxiety. Then the third barrier, the learning style. So again, I loved having a teacher at the front of the class. I had great teachers. I was a bit of a teacher's pet. Whether I sat at the front or not, it didn't matter. I listened, I learned, I loved it. I love that style of learning. But loads of kids, it doesn't suit. I mean, the debate is how many, but a significant minority, it doesn't suit them, a teacher teaching them in that way. For many students, learning on their own, self-directed learning, asynchronous learning, at their own time, in their own pace, brings out the best in them. And finally, time. And this is the kind of cool niche one, but I bet you'll be like, that makes sense. Some kids learning from 9 till 3, it's not great. It's not the best for them. Some kids are optimal, just like adults, in the morning or the evening or weekends even, believe it or not. So traditional schooling is not set up to serve any of those children that suffer with all four of those happiness barriers getting in the way. Some, and I was having this great chat with a kid, went down to a school trip. I popped down to make content with our kids. Big shout out to the teachers that actually organise and run the school trips. I don't envy them. But I went down to a residential trip in Cornwall, our first resi. Imagine that, online school does a residential trip, 30 kids overnight, 2 nights. It was amazing. I was chatting to them, a bunch of year 11s, and I was telling them about my theory of the 4 happiness blockers. And one kid went, I had all 4. All 4 were bad for me. The building, the classroom environment, the way the teacher teaches, and time. And she said, MVA has given me all my happiness back because all 4 of those barriers have been broken down. Because there is no building to get to. The classroom environment is one online where you feel a bit more safe, secure, less embarrassed. And if you're neurodivergent, you can concentrate. The teaching style is what I mentioned earlier. It's a mixture of self-study and live lessons. And the flipped learning element means you come to the live lesson with a prior understanding of the topic. A bit like university. You study virtually first, then you come into the lesson with a prior understanding of the topic. So the lesson is not a lecture. The lesson is a discussion, a debate. You come with questions. Imagine that. And for some kids, how that would bring out the best in them. And then finally, time. Again, so much of our timetable and so much of where you can learn can be when you like. We have some fixed lessons, but they are only 40% of the time. The rest is flexible in your own time. So that, again, allows some teenage boys who are much better in the evening to come to school in the evening. Do you know what I mean? It brings out the best in them. So
That's really interesting, because I think, if you're not from kind of this world, and you're thinking about sort of, okay, I'm quite happy streaming online, I'm happy kind of, banking online, but for my kids
or working online.
working online,
Yeah.
I've got to take that next leap and go, okay, my kids online learning, like what's kind of, how do you overcome that kind of challenge or objection?
Well, it's the most common question, right? I totally get it. Parents anxious about that. And first and foremost, going back to the bit about our model, the flexible element of the learning, only 40% of your lessons are fixed, right? And the rest you can choose to study online when you want. It's a more efficient way of learning, so they need to spend less time studying to get the same outcome. And we have outcomes now with 4 years now of results and GCSEs and A-levels, so I can come back to that in a minute. So less time studying to get the same outcome, if not better. And this is the thing. Our kids can be outside more, but our kids could be on screens less than kids at traditional school. Speaking to kids, parents this week in Dubai, they're like, yeah, my child is on their tablet at school all day. They're on their tablet for homework. And I say, that's hilarious, because most of the kids at my online school, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kids who game, and I'm not pretending that otherwise, but they come to online school so they can be free and outdoors more. They're on the screens less. Could you believe it? Would you believe it? And I guess the next question would be, well, hang on a minute. What about the results, etc., and outcomes? But we'll get to that. But does that make sense? The freedom that we provide as a type of school means that's why we don't just attract kids who might be neurodivergent or elite athletes who need us for a specific reason. We attract families more and more, and this is our growing category, who go, hang on a minute, this gives my child more freedom, this gives my family more freedom, and it gets them out and about more. How about that? And maybe, I might ask you about this, maybe we should change the term online schooling. Maybe we should go straight to calling it hybrid, because we do so much hybrid stuff. And maybe a word, I'm actually freestyling with you here. Maybe online is actually a barrier for my growth for the next 5 years and for our growth, because there's still a understandable and reasonable mental blocker for many parents when you say online. I get it.
Yeah.
But maybe we just change the word, reframe it.
I think it's a really great idea, because as you said, it's not really about, the kind of the means, it's the end, right? It's ultimately, it's the outcome. And so this, if online to us is, as you say, a blocker, then we've got to reinvent the term, because that is just not setting us up for success. I mean, one of the things that I'm really keen to kind of, I think sort of talk to you about as well is, the fact that you're setting up these folks, to be, the next generation of talent, as they enter the workplace, right? And so this is, of course, this is about being happy at school, but it also is setting them up for, a very, very different kind of world. What's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, really good point. And I just thought about it as well. To add to that, we since COVID, it's remote working, isn't it? Maybe we could call it remote schooling. But that's another, because online, again, you don't say online working, do you, when we're all working remotely? Distance, maybe. I mean, remote's good. Anyway, but back to your point. There's so much, it's a hot topic right now, and has been for a couple of years, right? Particularly with AI. But before AI, it was all about financial literacy. So maybe it's been a hot topic for 5 years. It's like future readiness for children at schools. And this curriculum is outdated. We're not setting kids up for the future. We're not setting the kids up for real life. Look, that's the narrative. And it's reasonable. It's got valid points. It just hasn't been my area of interest, because I think there's one step before that. Before we talk about future readiness, before we talk about preparing them for the world of work, there are too many kids fundamentally having a terrible time at school in general. So they're not ready to talk about future of work and university readiness, world readiness, because they're just not even going to school. They're emotionally based school avoiders, or they're missing tons of school because of their discipline, or school isn't serving them. And I've been focusing on those kids. I've been focusing on getting that bit right. And I think we've done a good job doing that. So it's like, let's get school right for those kids so they're happy, so they learn. And I think I'll defend the English national curriculum to an extent. It's served us really well. Look, age of AI, question mark, but it served us pretty well. And you learn it's to knock things like, oh, let's get rid of history, let's get rid of Shakespeare. Like we learn about problem solving from history. We learn about love, loss, and jealousy from Shakespeare. Like, to do these things down, I think does them a disservice and isn't correct. I am not saying we should not be teaching children financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and other really important life skills. We should. But my focus has been on getting it right for the school right for those kids that aren't even attending, whether they're physically attending or maybe they are attending, but they're not mentally there. So I've been focusing on them cracking those guys. However, we always got to look forward, right? In the age of AI, this is particularly important. And we've proven our model works for getting children back on their feet, getting them happy again, which is amazing. And then more recently, we've proven our model works for academic results. We're getting the good results. And it's like, yes, how cool is this? Mate, be honest, Justin, I was like, I wonder how the GCSEs and A-levels will end up. We're going to be happiness first. I really hope we'll do well. And then we've done well. We've done well. English and maths, well above national average. And our results for children with SEND smashed national average. Amazing. So real government proof there. That's why Department for Education in the UK have been coming to visit us. We're also in conversation, we are more than in conversations. We're talking to the KHDA. We're submitting our application to be accredited by them, and they've been really cool and supportive. So, because obviously they've got to look at outcomes and results. Yeah. But back to your point, for me, the third piece of happiness, outcomes, and then the third is enrichment. So giving students that stuff outside the classroom that's so important. We've got now an assistant vice principal for student development. She's been with us in September. Her sole job is more clubs, more trips, more competitions, because competition is so important in schools, I think. Competing, cheering your friends on, losing, winning. And recently, as of January 2026, we're really pleased to announce a partnership with 8 Billion Ideas, who are based UK business that's moved to Dubai, who are all about what they call the critical curriculum. So don't call it extracurricular, don't call it enrichment, call it critical. These kids need these skills for the future of work, and that is entrepreneurship, public speaking, financial literacy. So we're partnering with them because they do such a good job of that stuff already. We've been focused on school and being a great school for kids to come to, but we do believe in what they call the critical curriculum, 8 Billion Ideas, and we're really proud to be partnering with them. As of, January 2026.
Congratulations.
So exciting.
So all of this growth, I mean, I think you said you're kind of up to 1,400 or so kind of, and you've talked about kind of the need out there. What's really driving the demand?
There's 3 major crises in the UK. In the UAE, different. Let's just say that. But similar stuff going on, but in the UAE, different. In 3 major education crises of our time. One is the teacher recruitment and retention crisis. People are not applying to be teachers in the numbers we need, and teachers are leaving the profession in droves. Like, challenge. There's the absentee crisis in the UK. 1.4 million students persistently absent from school, mostly for a neurodivergent reason or a mental health reason. Okay, and others, but mostly. And the third is the SEND crisis. There's the growing number of students with SEND and schools not being able to deal with that rise. So we're in the perfect place because we're so good. We're such a perfect place for children with special educational needs or children with mental health needs. In the UK, that means that's really, really driven lots of our growth. But that's not to discount the, 15, 20% of our students are elite athletes and performers. And now over 20% of our families are coming to us because they want this family need, the flexibility we want. So we're good for all of them, basically. But the shift, I mean, people talk about, remember at the start, I talked about post-COVID. Parents had this awakening, right? They said, oh my God, turns out learning from home is quite good for this one child of mine. Okay, rubbish for this one. And that younger kid, no way, they hate learning online. But my middle child flourished online or flourished at home. And there's two different reasons there. And that drove this, we thought 2021 quick growth. We grew really quickly to 200 students. Many people said, that's it. COVID, it's not going to last. It's just a COVID thing. But they were wrong, right? I think we're moving towards slowly a mass adoption of our model as normal, not different and weird. And for me, that's my strategy over the next 5 years. That's our PR and marketing strategy, is how can we flip the narrative for us being niche to us being normal and recognized. And that's a mixture of, PR strategy, marketing strategy, and lobbying with the government and government bodies. That's where we think we can get to. And yeah, the press is increasing on us in the UK and out here in the UAE.
I think so. And it goes back to the conversation we were having around naming, right? Changing the narrative, changing the story, right? It's sort of, I think that's a really great, I think we're going to come on to kind of, we've mentioned Dubai. We're actually having this conversation in Dubai right now.
Yeah, it's great to be here again.
I'd love to kind of zero in more on kind of, the international kind of side of your business. So let's talk about that in a minute. But one of the things that I sort of wanted to go back to was, as you grow these businesses, and you sort of mentioned it about sort of, the challenge of finding every student a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
What are the hardest parts of kind of scaling, while still kind of retaining kind of quality?
Really great question. Our unique challenge as a school, obviously not as a business, because so many good businesses that you've met scale, but a school scaling like we are, we're a business first and foremost. Our school is our main product, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of that's how we've run things, because essentially one of the reasons we've grown is because we've invested in the product. We make every month we invest in the school to make it better, to improve retention, etc. But coming back to that in a minute, the unique challenge of our school is the growth means that we have to hire lots of teachers throughout the year. Because our pupil numbers are growing throughout the year, we've got to keep hiring teachers. And that is a unique challenge that our principals, our vice principals, our senior leaders at the school have never had to deal with at any school before. Because they've come from traditional schools, all of them. Mainly because there's no like historical online schools out there where we can grab a bunch of talent. There's one or two, but it doesn't really work like that. It's such a new category that the majority of our amazing senior leaders and teachers are from traditional school backgrounds. Some of them from the best schools in the UK and international schools around the world. And the thing they find hardest, which I do not blame them for, is the fact that we've got to keep recruiting teachers throughout the year. So that's a unique challenge. Now, we're able to do that because we're a really attractive place to come for good teachers now. Don't get me wrong, 4 years ago at the start, I was borrowing tutors from my tutoring business, and we were just slightly making up as we go along. Shout out to all those families that joined us in that first year, 200 of them, wow. Now it's a professional setup. We've got the setup of a good international school, like the ones you've heard of out here in the UAE. We've got a principal, 2 vice principals, 4 assistant vice principals, heads of year, heads of department, like you name it, right? Because we're a big school now. But we're back to the point, we're able to fulfill this teacher recruitment demand because so many good teachers are thinking, hang on a minute, I get to work at MVA. One, I would hope this is the main reason, because they know they're doing something different that's changing the world, and they believe in the mission of MVA, and they love traditional mainstream school, as they should, but they want to get involved in this mission. That's why we're attracting a lot of good teacher talent. And 2, they get to work from home, and that is super attractive for teachers. Most teachers don't, and we offer 4-day weeks and 3-day weeks. So you get some, not for senior leaders, they'll be 4, mostly 5, but some teachers, they get to work 3-day weeks and work from home, and these are amazing teachers. So we're able to fulfill this challenging growth in pupil numbers, which requires hiring teachers because of that. But the most important thing we've done with our scaling is our biggest cost as a business remains our faculty. And that we're getting gearing everywhere else, operational gearing and all our other costs. But faculty and the school, we keep spending more on each year incrementally because we're making it better and better each year. So that's whether that's hiring better teachers, investing in leadership structures, like I mentioned, or investing in the tech, doing more after school clubs, more school trips, like we used to have one a year. Now there's 6 a term, that sort of thing. And this has been secret to it's obvious for you, people like you, but like just investing in the product, making it better and better every year, every term has been really crucial to this like growth, because retention just goes up and up and up. People retention goes up and up and up. Staff happiness, like teacher retention is at 98%, which is ridiculous compared to national averages and international averages. So all those things happen from this, right? We're going to grow we are going to grow. That is the mission. And I'm sorry if that's troubling for some of you guys, but that is my mission. Kids need us, and we're not going to stop. But we are never going to sacrifice the quality of our school. In fact, we're going to just make it better. We're going to invest in it year after year. I'll give you another example. Mentoring, which is our most expensive part of our product, having to pay one-on-one mentors once a week for every child, is one of my most expensive costs. It's in that faculty cost bit. We used to have mentor sessions once a fortnight, but we've upped that to once a week, because parents wanted it. And it's made so much sense. It's more expensive, but it's made us better. And uniquely, the mentor is so often the parent's most favorite thing about MVA. The fact they get a mentor once a week with their child, giving them a feedback report every 2 weeks. Super cool. So let's invest in that. And other things like, we used to do one hour a week of English for GCSE kind of year. That's been being quite generic. One hour a week of English, but we've now we now do 2 hours a week of English and math, sorry. Like, that's investing more, costing more, but it's improving the product. And a lot of that comes from this amazing stuff we do, like parent feedback. Some parents feel so, they feel like they're slightly uneasy at first when we say, yeah, tell us what we're doing wrong, give us feedback. They're like, what? We've never heard a school say that. We've never heard a school say, tell us what we're doing wrong, we're going to improve. And then this year, in sort of 2020, in February 25, so last year to April, Suzanne, the principal, and I toured around the UK, then Malaga, where we've got lots of kids in Spain, and then we did the UAE, asking parents for feedback. We did workshops with sometimes up to 100 parents, our parents, with green for good feedback, pink for things you'd prefer didn't happen or something like that, and then yellow for suggestions. And it was on a whiteboard and with post-it notes, and all these parents were just like, how about this, and then even better, we published all of that and sent it to all our parents, all the ones that couldn't attend those events. And we said and as a consequence, we improved loads of things last year. So, and I think that's been crucial as well.
You just mentioned Malaga, as we said, you're growing, and tell me a little bit about sort of like what you're learning from the differences in expectations and culture when you're delivering online schooling across markets.
Yeah, it's really, really good point. So of our 1,400 students, 15%, 85%, let's say, are UK based, and 15% are rest of the world. So 15% of our 1,400 students are around the world in around 60 countries. Which sounds super exciting. It's because it is. But in about 20 of those countries, there's one student. So there's a kind of thin line at the bottom, right? Our second biggest country with nearly 50 students is the UAE. And then there's sort of Spain and some other Western European countries as well. We've always been international. Of our first 10 students, 2 were not in the UK. So we've always served the international market. And one of the reasons we've set up our second regional hub in the UAE, why we targeted the UAE, where we've got our own vice principal Middle East, our own marketing community manager Middle East, based out here in Dubai, and as well as some teachers based out here. We wanted to create hubs around the world because, as you remember, Justin, I said, the secret sauce to MBA, one of the reasons for success, one of the things the kids love the most when we survey them, is our community. School trips, family meetups, and sort of kids getting together, right, offline. That is flourishing in the UK, but in the rest of the world, they weren't getting those school trips and they weren't getting the community meetups. So in September 2025, I said, right, the second hub after the UK is going to be the UAE, where we're going to have local leader, a vice principal Middle East, and we're going to do school trips and family meetups. And we've already done 4 of those already, and it's January. We launched in September. It's January already. We've got one in Abu Dhabi in your neck of the woods on Sunday. And That's been a real, that's because I said, like, that's the magic, really. That's the magic of MVA. So the plan is always to grow internationally, to have hubs around the world so they can have the school trips and in-person meetups. You ask about the differences between these international groups, culturally, etc. There are subtle ones. But I'll give you an example. When I first came out to Dubai in February 25, thinking this could be our next bit, or the UAE could be our next bit, next hub, some people said to me, out here, it's going to be more about the lifestyle families, the families that want flexible schooling to travel, the families that want, to avoid traffic, or it's going to be about the athletes and performers. And then some other experts, and they're all experts, they're all good people. They said, no, there's a send crisis here. And they need the people out here, you need way more options for children who are neurodivergent. And I said, well, that's okay. I mean, you're getting different opinions. So I said, I'm going to do what I always do, and we're going to try and market to them all. And we have. And by marketing to them all, we've managed to, in our first 50 students out here in the UAE, they are a mixture of neurodiverse, mental health needs, elite athletes and performers, and lifestyle. However, being completely honest, the balance is slightly different. Out here in the UAE, there's more lifestyle families and more athlete families than in the UK. There's a balance. So there's a subtle differences there.
Let's talk about the V of MVA for a second. We've talked a little bit about sort of online, but I want to kind of dig in more kind of to the technology, I suppose, in the sense that underpins the kind of online learning experience a bit. So, we wouldn't be able to kind of have this conversation without mentioning AI. So I suppose, in a sense, give me your kind of perspective on, how you're embracing tech to kind of improve learning outcomes, how you're using AI to change the role of teachers, mentors, and assessments, and so on.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because we're, as a virtual school, our children learn through devices, right? So AI is more at their fingertips and our teachers' fingertips, right, than in a traditional school classroom setting, where they might have screens in there, and sadly, there's not too much, like, just as discussed, there's probably lots of that going on, more than many of us would hope. But they don't have the AI like next to them. Do you know what I mean? In a traditional school. But in our school, the AI is next to them, as it were, access to AI. At the very basic level, as an educator and an education leader, there is no way in 2026 that teachers should not be using AI and school leaders to save time. Come on, wake up. That's got to happen now. That's like basic, like 101, right? AI should be now being used for teachers to save time. And luckily, our teachers are, right? And they're able to. We've done loads of AI workshops, AI training. Dan Fitzpatrick, who I would say is the leading AI expert in education and schools, he's on our advisory board, right? And he's a friend. And the stuff we've done with Dan, the stuff like the coaching we've got an AI lead at the school, and many, like, full-time AI lead in the faculty. So we take it really seriously. But at the very least, you've got to be doing that, right? You've got to be cutting down time, saving your time, being more efficient. AI should be doing that, helping you plan lessons and helping you mark. And we're a tech-based, so the virtual platform has already got inbuilt in it the ability to mark students using machine learning and using AI. So mark students' work, saving time. So that's very basic stuff. What I'm interested in, but we need to be cautious with, is how we can use AI to help the pupil, right? And we are currently building a chat bot in a virtual school environment, which can help students without giving them the answer. But you've got to be really careful about that stuff, because who owns the data? If we're going to use a ChatGPT style thing in the cloud, who owns that? We use a Google style thing, who owns that? And I've been working with our CTO on this, who's my dad. Shout out to my dad, Graham, and MVA CTO, because we believe the future of AI in schools should be using offline computer devices, which the school can own. Imagine a big brick in the school where all the data there is your data, the children's data most importantly, and that is protected by you and your security team, and you're not feeding children's data into the cloud. And I think that would be an evolution for schools and AI, which I'm really interested in. And then once you've got that and it's safe and secure, in a school like mine, you can log in the morning and open up the school gates, walk through on the computer, and the AI is like, hey, Justin, how you doing today? Do you feel better because they know you were ill yesterday? Hey, have you done your chemistry yet? Because they know the chemistry was due at 10 a.m., that assignment. But the date, the reason it knows all that, I know you could argue that's just all a bit creepy and a bit much, but if the data they know about the child is safe and secure, first and foremost, in your own safe and secure offline system, then I think you can have incredible results with that, with an AI being an assistant and a friend, as it were. But that's pretty ambitious. And I think the first couple of things I said are pretty obvious. So I'm curious what you think, actually.
I love it
about that.
I love it. I would buy that for $1 right now. Okay, I've got one last question, which is more of, I suppose, in a sense, a bit of reflection and advice sort of question. And then I've got a few quick fire questions, first thing that comes into your head, okay? So, with the wisdom of kind of the last, 5 years right now, I suppose, in a sense, what advice would you give to parents who are deciding whether online schooling is right for their child?
So look for signs of how they're getting on at their current school. If they've been out of school for a term, a year, or 2 years in some cases, which is labeled sometimes emotionally based school avoidance, that's an obvious one, okay? Less obvious ones, are they getting anxious getting out of the house in the morning? Are they coming home sad? Are they losing friends? And they're becoming more isolated? Missing school for 2 years is really obvious, but when your child is like suffering there with anxiety about getting into school, anxiety when they come home, or sad, or becoming more isolated and losing friends, well, their learning's suffering. Maybe they flourished in year 6, and actually by year 8, their grades are dropping. These are all really obvious reasons to be looking at options and alternatives, because it could be that the building itself isn't good for your child, the classroom, the busy classroom isn't good for your child, the way the teacher teaches isn't good for your child, or the time, learning from 9 to 3, it might not be good for your child. And that may cause all sorts of things. Now, rightly, some parents will say, oh, it's good, it's character building if they're sad. Okay, it's character building if they're bullied. There might be some truth in that, but not if that's been going on 2 years. To be honest, I think 2 weeks is too long, but, if that's been going on a term, bullying, anxiety, depression in some cases, it could be, you shouldn't ignore it. It's not character building. In fact, you're making it worse. And what they need is to feel happy again and whole again. And guess what happens then? You make friends. You make more friends. So many kids I speak to, they're like, I didn't have any friends in my old school. These are the kids at MBA who've got 10 best friends in year 10. They're like, oh, I didn't have any friends in my old school. I hated it. But we're all programmed to think, no, traditional school, that's where you make friends in the playground. She's like, no, I've made friends at MBA. Yeah, online originally, but we all meet up physically. So just forget those things for now. Look at your child and think, has something happened that means their grades are suffering? They're not willing to go to school, and that's okay. They're shutting down. That can often be a symptom with neurodivergent students. And then on the other side, it's let's talk about the lifestyle families. Are they spending too much time doing homework? You were at this amazing private school, but they spend the entire evening doing homework, and on weekends being stressed out about more homework. Like, that's what more and more parents are coming to me asking about here. This is lifestyle parents. They know children's really clever. The children's neurotypical. The children's extroverted. The child is extroverted, but they're overwhelmed with the homework they do. Or do you want a bit more freedom to go on holiday when you want? Things like that. That's when you could be thinking about looking at alternative types of school. And then finally, if your child is very talented in a certain discipline, whether that's acting, music, or a sport, it comes to a point, often around 14 years old, where they've got to choose between their sport or their academics. And with a school like MVA, you don't have to choose. And we've done all this testing and surveys. The kids at MVA, who are athletes, we've got over 250 of them, they say their grades are better and they're better at their sport having come to MVA, because it makes sense, right? They get to train more, so they're better at their sport, and they don't miss school. So those are all the sorts of reasons where a parent might think, hang on a minute, alternative schooling to traditional, maybe better for my child.
Thank you. That brings our kind of conversation to a close. I'm just going to end with a few very quick fire questions for you. First thing that comes in your head, okay?
Oh, God.
If you could instantly download any skill into your brain, what would it be?
Ability to speak any language. Oh, it's one word answer, isn't it? Languages.
What language?
Arabic.
What historical figure would you bring into the classroom as a guest teacher?
Caesar. I'm a classicist. Julius Caesar.
Love it. What's the one outdated school rule you'd delete forever?
Time, being at lessons on time.
Love it.
Oh, not being able, no, sorry.
Go for it.
Loo breaks.
Loo breaks.
Not being allowed to have loo breaks.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, some kids at MVA are like, one of the best things about MVA is I get to go to the loo whenever I want. Like, imagine that. Transformative.
Teleportation becomes real. You could take your kids anywhere. Where's the first place you would take them on a school learning trip?
Atlantis to Palm. Aquaventure World.
Hugh, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.